Welcome to Young Heart TV, the home of dark stories and sleepless nights. Tonight's horror story is called Your Sleep is Being Watched. Before we start, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more terrifying stories every week. Now, lock your doors, stay close to the light, and enjoy the horror.
Rocca never enjoyed the silence of the night. Ever since childhood, darkness made him uncomfortable for reasons he could not explain. He often felt eyes staring at him while he tried to sleep. His parents believed he only had an overactive imagination. As he grew older, the feeling never truly disappeared. At 26 years old, Rocca moved into a small apartment in Bandung. He had recently started working as a graphic designer for a private company. The apartment was old, narrow, and surprisingly cheap. The owner was an elderly woman with tired eyes and pale skin. She handed him the key without smiling. Before leaving, the old woman stopped near the front door. She stared at Rocca for several seconds without speaking. Finally, she warned him not to move the mirror in the bedroom. Her voice sounded strangely serious and cold. Rocca laughed awkwardly and promised nothing. The bedroom was small, but clean enough for one person. A large mirror stood directly across from the bed. Its wooden frame looked ancient and scratched by time. Rocca disliked how the mirror reflected the entire room perfectly. Every time he looked at it, he felt uneasy. On the first night, rain poured heavily outside the apartment building. The sound of thunder echoed through the thin walls. Rocca lay in bed while scrolling through his phone. Around midnight, exhaustion slowly overtook him. He eventually fell asleep with the lights turned off. At exactly 3:07 a.m., Rocca suddenly woke up. His heart pounded violently for no reason at all. The room felt colder than before. He noticed the blanket covering the mirror had fallen onto the floor. For several seconds, he simply stared at the reflection in silence. Something felt terribly wrong inside the room. Rocca could hear faint breathing near his bed. The reflection in the mirror appeared darker than the actual room. He slowly sat upright while trying to calm himself down. Then he realized the reflection had not moved with him. In the mirror, his reflected body was still lying on the bed. Its eyes remained closed, like a sleeping corpse. Rocca froze as fear spread through his body. Slowly, the reflection opened its eyes. A wide smile stretched across its face unnaturally. Rocca immediately switched on the bedroom light. The reflection returned to normal instantly. His own frightened face stared back at him from the mirror. Sweat covered his entire body despite the cold air. He did not sleep again that night. The next morning, Rocca tried convincing himself it was only exhaustion. Work stress had probably affected his mind. He prepared coffee and attempted to ignore the memory. However, he noticed wet footprints near the bathroom door. The footprints stopped beside his bed. That evening, Rocca returned home later than usual. The apartment hallway felt strangely quiet and empty. Even the old fluorescent lights flickered continuously overhead. He unlocked the apartment door with trembling hands. A terrible feeling followed him inside. The mirror was uncovered once again. Rocca clearly remembered covering it before leaving for work. He checked every window and door carefully. Nothing appeared broken or missing. Still, he felt like someone had entered the apartment. The silence became unbearable. Around midnight, strange sounds came from inside the walls. They resembled faint scratching mixed with whispering voices. Rocca pressed his ear against the bedroom wall nervously. The whispers suddenly stopped completely. Then, something softly knocked from inside the wall 3 times. Rocca backed away in terror immediately. His breathing became faster and louder. He grabbed his phone and considered calling the police. Before he could dial any number, another knock echoed loudly. This time, it came from underneath his bed. Gathering courage, Raka slowly crouched beside the bed. His hands shook uncontrollably while lowering himself down. Darkness filled the narrow space beneath the mattress. For several seconds, he saw absolutely nothing there. Then, two pale eyes blinked in the darkness.
Raka stumbled backward and hit the wall behind him. The knocking sound stopped instantly afterward. He quickly turned on every light in the apartment. The entire room looked perfectly normal again, yet the feeling of being watched only grew stronger. Over the next few days, Raka barely slept at all. Dark circles formed beneath his exhausted eyes. His coworkers noticed his strange behavior immediately. During meetings, he constantly looked over his shoulder nervously. He even began hearing whispers at work. One afternoon, an older coworker approached him quietly. The man listened carefully to Raka's story without laughing. Instead, his expression became deeply disturbed. He asked for the apartment address immediately afterward. When Raka answered, the man suddenly fell silent. The coworker explained that several deaths had happened there before. Most victims reportedly died during their sleep mysteriously. Neighbors often heard screaming around 3:07 a.m. before the deaths occurred. Some survivors claimed something watched them every night. Raka felt his blood run cold.
That night, Raka decided not to sleep at all. He sat on the bed holding a baseball bat tightly. The mirror remained covered by a thick blanket. Every light inside the apartment stayed turned on. Still, fear slowly filled the room like poison. At exactly 3:07 a.m., the lights suddenly went out. Darkness swallowed the apartment instantly. Raka heard heavy breathing directly beside him. The blanket covering the mirror slowly slipped downward alone. A freezing wind moved through the bedroom silently. Raka tried running toward the door immediately. However, his body suddenly became completely paralyzed. He collapsed onto the bed helplessly. The room felt impossibly cold around him. Then footsteps echoed softly across the floor. A tall figure emerged from the darkness near the mirror. Its body looked thin and horribly twisted. Long arms hung beside its knees unnaturally. Its black eyes reflected no emotion whatsoever. The creature stared directly at Raka without blinking. Raka desperately attempted to scream for help. No sound escaped from his throat at all. Tears rolled down his cheeks in terror. The creature slowly climbed onto the bed beside him. Its face moved closer toward his ear. In a dry whisper, the creature finally spoke softly. "I watch people while they sleep," it whispered slowly. Its voice sounded like many voices speaking together. Raka could smell rotten breath coming from its mouth. Fear consumed every part of his mind.
The creature pointed one long finger toward the mirror suddenly. Raka forced his eyes toward the reflection carefully. Inside the mirror, dozens of shadowy figures surrounded the bed silently. Every figure stared directly toward him. Some of them smiled horribly. One by one, the figures inside the mirror began moving closer. Their movements looked unnatural and broken. Cracking sounds echoed from inside the glass loudly. Tiny fractures slowly spread across the mirror's surface. Something inside wanted to come out. Raka gathered the last of his strength desperately. He grabbed the baseball bat beside the bed quickly. With a terrified scream, he swung it toward the mirror. The glass shattered violently across the room. A horrifying scream exploded from inside the walls. Suddenly, complete silence filled the apartment once again. The cold air disappeared almost immediately afterward. Raka regained control over his body slowly. Without wasting another second, he ran out of the apartment barefoot. He never returned to collect his belongings. Several weeks later, a new tenant moved into the apartment. He was a university student searching for cheap rent. The old woman handed him the apartment key silently. Before leaving, she warned him not to move the mirror. Inside the bedroom, something smiled from the reflection quietly. That was "Your sleep is being watched."
If you enjoyed this horror story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Young Heart TV for more scary stories and dark mysteries. Tell us in the comments, would you dare to sleep alone after hearing this story? Thank you for watching, and remember, sometimes you are not alone in the dark. See you in the next nightmare.